Okay, it's 5 o'clock. I'll call the meeting to order. Pursuant to MGL 7C 30A, Section 20F, after notifying the chair of a public body, any person may make a video or audio recording of an open session of a meeting of a public body or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Beginning of the meeting, the chair shall inform other attendees of any such recordings. This meeting is being recorded by CTSB, Berkshire Edge, and the town of Great Barrington. Any member of the public wishing to speak at the meeting must receive permission of the chair. The listing of agenda items are those reasonably anticipated by the chair, which may be discussed at the meeting. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. So under 4C, which is a request for a temporary exemption from town's noise ordinance, there's been a request to withdraw that because that work's been done. So we will take 4C off of the agenda. So I'll start with select board's announcements and statements. One very important is to welcome Liz Hartsgrove, her first meeting, her first day. She's still here. Yeah. So we're very excited to have you here and welcome.
Thank you.
And equally is to thank Chris Rembold, who is happier than heck sitting in the audience, not sitting where you are. He did it yeoman's work for longer than I promised him he would have to do it for, and we really appreciate everything you do. Then a couple people reminded me that November 11th is Veterans Day, and that sometimes that's overlooked, maybe time of year, but it's important to recognize everyone who served. We have pictures here of those killed in action. And so just a reminder that November 11th is a very important day. Let's start with Phil. Nothing, thank you. Ben.
Just a thank you to everyone who came out to Houstonic for trick-or-treating throughout town, all of town last Friday, and to the police for helping make sure everyone was safe. Trick-or-treating in Houstonic with them is one of the best events I think that this town has. It's one of the just a beautiful example of what our community does. And tomorrow is voting day. I just want to use my time to say, please vote, and remember that there's two ballots. There's two ballots. Vote on both ballots. Thank you.
Barbara.
Nothing, but isn't the town hall closed on the 11th as well?
Yeah.
Yes, just wanted to follow up with Ben and state of my full agreement on how fun Halloween is in Housatonic, and it is just tons of families, streets are packed, and always a good time. And tomorrow, get out and vote. 11 o'clock, the polls open, and they are open until 7 p.m. So 11 a.m., 7 p.m. Please go out and vote. Thank you.
Town manager's report. Do you want to say anything? I think they stole your little thunder there.
Eric did a great job. So I think, yeah, again, I'll reiterate for the third time. Elections tomorrow, 11 to 7, same polling locations. Just be there to help the community out in voicing your opinion. So.
Thank you. We'll start with licenses and permits. Application for a temporary beer and wine license, Guthrie Center for their Alice's Restaurant 60th anniversary celebration. 2 Van Duzenville Road, Saturday, November 8th, 2025, from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. Mo, are you on the line?
I am, if you guys can hear me.
We can. Do you want to just give a little plug for what you're doing?
Yeah. So we're having an event on November 8th. It is the 60th anniversary of the events that transpired during Alice's Restaurant. So we'll be doing a screening of the film right there in the church where it was filmed, as well as a Q&A with Arlo. And this event will be a fundraiser to benefit the Guthrie Center. So we're just hoping that we will be able to sell beer and wine during that event.
Terrific. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve a 1-day beer and wine for the Guthrie Center at 2 Van Duzenville Road, Great Barrington, Mass. Saturday, November 8th from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m.
Do I have a second?
Second with the question.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Bit curious is what the donation, if you will, or the entrance fee will be?
So there's
Business
there's
union.
ticketed, oh, sorry. So there's ticketed seats for the whole event, which are roughly, I believe, around $120. So those are to be there for the day, but then we will be doing other fundraising such as a silent auction and things of that nature during the event.
Thank
But
you.
what does one have to pay to get in, or you don't have to pay to get in, but if you, I mean.
No,
if
you
it's
do, excuse me. So
$120 for everyone?
that is correct. It's $120 fee, although the event is currently sold out at this moment.
Oh, wow. Right.
That's good. Anyone else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Good luck, man.
Yeah,
Thank you guys very much.
thank you.
So next one is just a change, really just a change in date, but it got in, obviously they're well planned. So it's an application for a temporary beer and wine license, the Board of Library Trustees for their poetry series at 231 Main Street, Mason Library. It's now January 24th, 2026, from 4 PM to 6 PM. I think it was the 31st previously. Hi,
Yeah, this is Sharon. Hi, everybody.
Patient.
please, just so they can hear
A
you.
lot to just apologize. But Sharon Shalo, Brushwood Lane, Great Barrington, and Board of Library Trustees. I apologize for this typo. But the organizers had a floor they really wanted to have come, couldn't make it on the original date, so they switched to the 24th. So sorry for the extra paperwork.
That's not a problem. Do you have a motion with fee waived?
I make a motion to approve the temporary beer and wine license for the Board of Trustees at their poetry series. New date of Saturday, January 24th, 2026, from 4 PM to 6 PM. Fee waived.
Thank you. Do you have a second?
Second.
Do you have any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you, Sharon. New business. Our bond, 2025 bond approval. Thank you. Go right ahead, Alicia.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can.
All right. Hi, everybody. So we had some bids for our 2025 bond that came in. We actually had a total of 8 bids. These are on various projects that have either already been started or are about to be started, and that were all approved at previous town meetings. And we're also paying off our short-term ban that we borrowed for in June. The lowest bidder with a true interest cost of 2.84% was Loop Capital Markets. So I'm asking you to approve this bond, and then the vote, if you would, has to be read.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
this will be another one where Eric gets to star on his own short.
Love it.
Yeah,
Love it.
before we do that, is there questions of Alicia before we start? No, go right ahead.
All right.
You got your glasses, good.
So I got the proper ones today. So. Vote of the Select Board. I, the clerk of the Select Board of the Town of Great Barrington, Massachusetts, the town, certify that at the meeting of the board held November 3rd, 2025, of which meeting all members of the board were duly notified, in which a quorum was present. The following votes were unanimously passed. Unanimously passed. There we go. All of which appear upon the official record of the board in my custody. Voted that the sale of the 5,110,000 general obligation municipal purpose loan of 2025 bonds of the town dated November 20th, 2025. The bonds to Loops Capital Markets LLC at the price of 5,671,331.44, and accrued interest, if any, is hereby approved and confirmed. The bond shall be payable on November 15th of the years and in principal amounts, and bear interest at the respective rates as follows. Year 2026, amount 400,000, rate 5%. Year 2027, 385,000, interest rate 5%. Year 2028, 375,000, rate 5%. Year 2029, 370,000, rate 5%. Year 2030, 365,000, rate 5%. Year 2031, 365,000, rate 5%. Year 3032, 350,000, rate 5%. Year 2033, 350,000, rate 5%. Year 2034, amount 350,000, rate 5%. Year 2035, amount 340,000, rate 5%. Year 2036, 310,000, interest rate 4%. Year 2037, amount 310,000, rate 4%. Year 2038, amount 310,000, interest rate 4%. Year 2039, 305,000, interest rate 4%. Year 2040, amount 225,000, interest rate 4%. Further voted that in connection with the marketing and sale of the bonds, the preparation and distribution of the notice of sale and preliminary official statement dated October 21st, 2025, and a final official statement dated October 28th, 2025. The official statement, each in such form as may be approved by the town treasurer, being hereby are ratified, confirmed, approved, and adopted. Further voted that the bond shall be subject to redemption at the option of the town upon such terms and conditions are set forth in its official statement. Further voted that the town treasurer and the select board be and hereby are authorized to execute and deliver and continue disclosure undertaking in compliance with SEC Rule 15C2-12 in such form as may be approved by bond counsel to the town, which undertaking shall be incorporated by reference in the bonds for the benefit of the holders of the bonds from time to time. Further voted that we authorize and direct the town treasurer to establish post-issuance federal tax compliance procedures and continuing disclosure procedures in such forms as the town treasurer and bond counsel seems deemed sufficient, or in such procedures are currently in place, to review and update said procedures in order to monitor and maintain the tax exempt status of the bonds and to comply with relevant security laws. Further voted that any certificates or documents related to the bonds, collectively the documents, may be executed in several counterparts, each of which shall be regarded as an original and all of which shall constitute one of the same document. Delivery of an executed counterpart of a signature page to all documents by electronic mail in a PDF, file or by other electronic transmissions shall be as effective as delivery as a manual executive counterpart signature page to such documents. And electronic signatures on any of the documents shall be deemed original signatures for the purpose of the documents in all matters relating thereto, having the same legal effect as original signatures. Further voted that each member of the select board, the town clerk, and the town treasurer be and hereby are authorized to take any and all such actions and execute and deliver such certificates, receipts, or other documents as may be determined by them, or any of them, to be necessary or convenient to carry out the effect and provisions of the foregoing votes. I further certify that the votes were taken at a meeting open to the public, that no vote was taken by secret ballot, that a notice stating the place, date, time, and agenda for the meeting, which agenda included the adoption of the above votes, was filed with the town clerk, and a copy therefore posted in a manner conspicuously visible to the public at all hours or in any of the municipal buildings that the office of the town clerk is located, or if applicable, in accordance with the alternative method of notice prescribed or approved by the Attorney General as set forth in 940 CMR 29.03. 2B, at least 48 hours, not including Saturdays, Sundays, or legal holidays, prior to the time of the meeting and remained so posted at the time of the meeting, that no deliberations, decisions, or connections with the sale of the bonds were taken in executive session. All in accordance with GLC 30A 18-25 as amended, dated November 3rd, 2025.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have any questions?
Did I understand that, it's a callable bond?
Alicia?
Sorry, what was the question?
Is it a callable bond?
I actually don't have that information in front of me, but who has that question? Because I can definitely get you that information.
Art Blumenthal.
Art Blumenthal.
Okay, yeah, if you want to shoot me an email, in either tonight or tomorrow morning, I can definitely get that information to you.
Okay, it's just if interest rates do go down, which is expected, you know, you might want to call it and then refinance it at a lower rate.
Yeah,
Most of our bonds are, but I don't know about this.
Yeah, I think I understood that in the wording, but I just wanted to make sure.
Thank you. Anyone else? Roll call vote. Phil,
Aye.
Ben,
Aye.
Garfield,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
and I. It's unanimous.
thank you. Would you mind just signing the signature pages are in the Board of Selectmen folder, and I just have to overnight the paperwork tomorrow. So if you could all sign them tonight, that would be great.
We are passing it around as we speak.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks, Alicia.
You're welcome.
Okay, next is review of the draft of FY 27 budget policy. I don't know if anybody's here to present this, but this finance committee made one change for this year in the FY 27 policy, one proposed change, and that was under debt management. And their wording, they added a line, series of lines, to avoid ballooning debt service payments, make every effort to limit long-term general fund borrowing to 3.5 million or less, the town's historical average. Only emergency borrowing should exceed this average. So let's discuss this. I have my thoughts on it. Bill, you want to start?
Sure. Well, keep it real simple. This was last discussed in our joint session, September 29th. And about 2 weeks later, we approved a contract for our new town manager. So this is big picture. I feel this was put together, I think, with all the best intentions, but I think the timing is less than optimal. So I would prefer that we sort of defer this decision here and give Liz the time to kind of make her own assessment of this particular document in general and this addition to the document and factor in all the learning experiences she will have with our budgetary process, which we're about to begin. So I would just prefer that we defer this at least in the meeting.
Yeah, I would agree. There's a couple problems in my mind with this. One is from year to year, there may be need to borrow more, to borrow less, that aren't necessarily emergencies. And then maybe as important, this goes through a process of finance committee and select board, then to town meeting, who approves these. So our town meeting has very often said, yeah, if it's 4 million and these are the reasons, I'll approve it. We may be restricting ourselves over things that we actually do need. And I understand borrowing is difficult, but I also understand we've been criticized. I know it's a surprise for not maintaining infrastructure. If we just put a 3.5 million or less, but the 3.5 million, there may be times that there's some infrastructure needs that are more than that. And in addition, it says, fund borrowing to 3.5 million or, then it says only emergency borrowing should exceed this average. Well, it's not really an average. If it's 3.5 million in a year, it doesn't say that 5-year average should be 3.5, it says 3.5 in any 1 year. So I have concerns, I think this is well intentioned, and it's a hardworking finance committee, but I do have some questions on wording and also on implementation.
Yeah, and also in the spirit of unforeseen complexities, I think there's many opportunities for this to be confused with Proposition 2.5. In a variety of conversations, so it's again well intentioned, but I just don't think it's the right time for it.
Other people, Ben?
Yeah, I think one of my biggest issues with it is defining what an emergency is, that there's no real clear metric. You know, it says only emergency borrowing should exceed this average. Emergency is going to depend on where you live and what you care about. Like that's, I think we're setting ourselves up for having, just even making this murkier. So I think it needs more work.
Yeah, I agree. Anyone else?
Yeah, I guess, I'll just go on with, I do like the intention of what is written here, and I do know that, you know, people are concerned about the spending, but it, as we all know at this table, it goes through a rigorous, very long month of planning, and, the people who wrote this and us at the table will be in these meetings, and we make a mental note that this is the target we're trying to go for. I guess it being in the policy makes me a little bit nervous, and I do, what Phil brought up as far as giving Liz time to get settled in and see everything that we have going on, that resonates well with me. I don't see the harm in trying to target this ourselves this year, if we see as the budget lays out, and come back to it again next year. Or if we want to put it in the policy for next year.
Yeah, I think it is tying our hands and tying the finance committee's hands and the town manager's hands and Ally's also. Garfield, do you have anything else?
Yeah.
Okay, so we can either just pass over this, or I would be glad to take a motion to send this back to the finance committee to ask them to either rework it or maybe just skip over our recommendation to skip over it for this year with a new town manager and bring it up again in FY 28.
I make a motion that we table this until FY 28.
Well, I wonder if we should just make it a little more clear to them what we're approving. I would say, should we approve the budget policy document excluding those 3 lines?
So I was gonna do 2 votes. Yeah, I agree with you. We still have to approve this document. We're not gonna change that. So we want to have that in place. So your motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So that's unanimous. Now do I have a motion to approve the FY 27 budget policy excluding what we've removed?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Okay, priority planning discussion. Liz, do you want to lead us in this?
Yeah, so thank you. Yeah. Steve and I had talked prior to, and I know that in the past, the select board have looked at priorities kind of in January. But I thought it would be a little bit more advantageous for us, especially since the financial policy was on tonight's agenda as well, that we have this discussion and look at the priorities with so much new membership here in this room, and take advantage of having this discussion and restructuring and reorganizing, replacing things, and there might be new things that are missing from the existing list. There's other things, as you can see, have been updated on the list that are now removed from it, and it will guide our planning process, staff's planning process for capital items, as you just alluded to, with the removal of that 3rd bullet in the debt management section, that we just need to have, understand where all of these demands of services are, with budgeting our upcoming budget. So So that's kind of it in a nutshell. I gave you all a memo. I kind of took time to reflect on the July 24 priority list and saw a lot of categories or areas of focus that then can kind of be better organized for us to get a sense of this theming within areas and then be able to integrate more departments and more boards and committees in those conversations and decisions of how to move forward. So, and then taking your rating list and kind of putting it into tiered systems. So, and giving it kind of like an identification or naming of them. So we have a sense of where they belong in the priority list, and if it's a long-term or if it's more of a strategic idea. But I'd like for tonight to have a little bit more discussion on what do some of these things mean if they're gonna stay in the priority list. Let's get a little bit more dialogue so we can create metrics that then the staff can be accountable and report to you for the future. And also be able to demonstrate online for the citizens and viewers on the audience, on the online audience, that they can see where progress is being made on these priorities. That's it kind of in a nutshell.
So do you want to go over the high priority first, which is
Well,
typically what we did, but
yeah, so I did draft,
Yeah.
I did, to start out the conversation also, I gave you an example of what I thought. My assumption, and we all know what assumptions really mean, but I wanna see what you guys actually think about with what the areas of focus are, what your real goal is in these areas. If the intent is, let's use infrastructure and assets, it's in 5C, page 6 of 10 in the priority planning of the agenda packet. That using infrastructure and assets, I placed them into tiers according to what was on the existing list. And if this is kind of in line, if this is still accurate, and if you think that things need to be shifted around a little. I did actually identify one area in this with the help of today's meeting. The library, the Ramsdale Library actually was not on the list. And you need to have a discussion if that is warranted to be included into the actual priorities.
so let's start with infrastructure and assets and do it. And for those at home, it's draft initiatives are tier 1, the highest impact core priorities. Housatonic waterworks, bridges, roads, sidewalks, complete streets, and elevator repairs. Tier 2 is strategic priorities, Housatonic Community Center, updates, conference room grants, and the fire station, the 20 Castle Street easement. Tier 3 is foundational supportive priorities, which is 5G technology. So I think we've always had Housatonic Waterworks as the highest priority on all of ours since we started this with Mark. That hasn't changed. The only thing I would add on that, I don't remember why I would include, I wouldn't add, is that, and it's in our packet, is that we received money from the state to help residents. And we upped it to $600 per household. And we still have money left in about a year to spend it. So there is a memo in here, but I would ask the town manager to also come back to look at that memo and maybe up it to $1,200 per household, maximum moment. So I would include that under the highest impact Housatonic Waterworks.
So Steve, this is actually a great example as to on the Excel spreadsheet that is existing. It says Housatonic Waterworks is a priority, but it doesn't actually describe what it is that you guys want to achieve. And what do you want the staff to actually accomplish within 6 months or 12 months? And so that I can help make that a success.
Yeah.
So is the grant opportunity making sure that more people get that money to assist them? Is that something that you want me to work on? And then getting also working with the other communities, and I need some direction on
Yeah.
that. So
So,
this is a
yeah.
great example of what does this mean?
So it does say in there, so this is one of the few, when we do strategic planning, any group I'm in, many times. In this case, the select board comes up with a strategic planning list and someone else does all the legwork.
Yeah,
We just, so in this case, this is something the select board is actually working on in executive session. And it does say their select board reviewing acquisition. And that, I think, is the number one priority, is to provide clean, safe drinking water to the citizens of Housatonic. And if that's by acquisition, so be it. If there's a better way and we find that out, that's terrific.
Yeah,
help me.
can I piggyback on
Yeah,
that? And I do think it's about, what Steve said. Also making people very aware of these funds that we have and getting it into their hands as easy as possible for filtration purposes and whatever it takes to, upgrade their system, so they're not suffering, from brown water, smelly water, discolored water, all the above, unsafe water. So I think that's very important. And I think just keeping the word out and, there's a lot of problems that we have is just communication,
Yeah.
lack of messaging, from the company when there's flushing going on, lack of the town finding out after the fact that they shut the water off to the town because of breaks in the main or whatever. So trying to get, we have the code red system that is available to notify people in these occurrences, and we need to make sure that when the flushing happens,
Sure.
that comes out. When there's a break in one of the mains or a fire hydrant line or whatever it may be, that Housatonic Water Works notifies the staff and a code red goes out, so people aren't caught in the shower or doing laundry when a surge of horrible water comes through their house. And yeah.
How are we going to, keep Housatonic Water Works on task? That's been an issue for us for a long time. Because
I think it's a really good one, yeah.
getting,
For example, if they're gonna dig up a road, they need to put it back into the condition it was in. And that's not been easy to get them to do. Anyone else digs up a road, that's our requirement, it should be theirs also.
but we also need to make sure that they're actually getting this information out. But
Yes.
I mean, they tear up the road, let's put it back together, but they have to tell us we're doing that. And they
Yes.
seem to be lacking getting forth information.
Yeah, and just to follow up on Eric's point, a few weeks ago, they performed flushing without telling the town, so we weren't able to put out a code red. They also did it on the days that they hadn't actually advertised as, in the small amount that they had actually put out, so it took people. Putting my family in that group of people, which is a surprise, which doing laundry, they can just completely ruin all sorts of things. So maintaining a relationship with the company and making sure that there's an expectation that information is provided to the town. Because often what they think is a acceptable amount of communication often isn't. So anything we can do to amplify that is really needed. On the town side of things that we can do, and the one thing that we've been talking about is part of the consent agreement that they have with DEP currently is to provide a filtered water source at East Top Community Center. Right now, there's a filter in place on the main line of the building, but we don't have essentially a year-round tap.
Yeah.
With high volume water filling.
It's a good point. There's some communication problems there. It's all well and good that Housatonic Water paid for the filter, but lack of communication or this wasn't thought of. It's only available 6 months out of the year, and that should be available somehow 365 days for the residents of the
Why is
county.
it not available?
Because it gets shut off in the cold weather.
It's just a water bottle.
Yeah, it's really just a water bottle filler anyways.
Yes. First thing I'll say, this is my first time through this as well, so, so there's a lot here. I would say that we could easily spend a full half day with you, giving you the read and download on the town board. So there's a lot there, and there's many layers to it, you know, sort of one end of the extreme is helping residents get clean water on a day-to-day basis, and the other is all of our executive session gyrations.
Which she's
Yeah.
getting up to speed.
So, so I guess I'd say that there's a lot there. You need more time than tonight. I would say to get you.
Yeah, but I think actually you summarize kind of some main objectives that are attainable within this year and seeing progress. Increasing communication, enhancing the relationship and the cooperation between the town and the district, and then also continuing efforts to explore the acquisition as well as providing access to resources and water, drinkable water. Those are all things that now I can actually list in, and then we can give you real updates.
So
on
I agree,
that stuff,
and
so you
it's
can
very,
see
very
this.
tangible, because.
Yes.
I know for one of my other hat is, you know, we have senior residents at the housing authority property in Housatonic. And who are endlessly confused as to what they need to go through to get reimbursed. You know, many other residents are just very confused by that process, even with all of our collective best intentions to set that up in the right way. So, you know, all improvements to the messaging and clarity and all.
Is it possible to have someone be appointed to get that information?
Yeah, we did. We hired a town manager.
Right. Well, we had our town manager before, and we had best cooperation from the.
No, that's what we're doing. We're giving the overview,
Yeah,
and Liz will come back to us with the details.
Liz, can I just add one more
absolutely.
item on to the communication?
Yes.
Establishing communication with DEP, I'm sure you already have relationships there, but we have seen a lot more them paying more attention to us over the last year or so, which has been greatly helpful.
Yeah.
And actually responding to people's complaints about groundwater. So just continuing to make sure that relationship continues.
Yes.
And the one thing we don't want to lose sight of is the state did give us the money. We have about a year to spend it.
Okay.
And I don't want to return a penny of it.
Yeah.
It's $170,000, and let's get it to the residents of Housatonic.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
Are you aware that Donna and I?
yeah, that's
want to
separate,
help out.
but that'll be part of the process that Liz will work on, yes. No, you can. No, not at length, but it,
No, not
Yeah.
just that we
Yeah.
really want to help,
yes,
partly to raise money, also to canvass the homes and see what the need is, so that we can identify that and then perhaps go, you know, section by section. If we raise the money, then we do a certain number of homes. As we raise some more money, we do some more. It's to work in addition to the funds available from the town. And I was very happy to hear that it might be raised to $1,200 a home.
that's something we're gonna ask the town manager to look at and come back to us with a recommendation. It's $170,000 left. People
Right.
have not taken advantage of it for whatever reason. We want to make sure we spend it.
Right, we hope we can help out by canvassing all the homes.
Great.
I have a citizen speak 3-minute update on the project.
Yeah, we'll do that again. Yeah. We won't forget you. We won't forget you.
I have a question. Do you, the way you want to help us it monetarily, or? Cause I'm concerned of whether or not we're giving money elsewhere, if the state's gonna say, where are you getting money, we want some of that money back, that's my.
I think what I prepared for citizen speak time is actually gonna answer those kinds of questions and give you an update. And I don't wanna do that right now. I should probably wait.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, because that's our number one priority, we've gone pretty in depth. The next one is bridges, roads, sidewalks, and complete streets. I think that's under the title of infrastructure. And, on the sheet here. Let's see. Provide updated meetings through Joe, roads, bridges, sidewalks and buildings townwide. So Joe's was coming in quarterly and giving us updates. And we've kind of let that slip. So I think that's one of the things is I think Joe is working on things. And we need to let people know what those are. One of the ways we found out best is at these meetings, well, once a quarter, for Joe to come in and talk to us about bridges, talk to us about sidewalks, grants, and the press picks up on that. And also we're informed. So that's been very helpful.
Do you want those to continue?
Yes.
Okay, and get on a schedule?
Yes.
Okay.
Can I just, talking of bridges, roads, sidewalks and complete streets, I just, I think we need to have some sort of like policy that goes across the board as far as for sidewalks. I tend to answer a lot of questions on, it was a long time ago, but I still get asked a handful of questions about why one sidewalk is paved and other sidewalks are cement. So different staff at the time, different things, different answers, and at one time, the answer of why one sidewalk was paved and the rest are cement was because of density. And the core of the village and stuff was higher density, and as you go out to get more sidewalks done, they're gonna use pavement. But now just a lot of projects have been done, most of all of them are cement, and I think it would just be clear just to have a solid policy in hand moving forward of why some materials are used in one spot and going in the other.
And I think in Joe's next update, whenever we schedule that, Joe, you can take up on that. You and I have talked about that. You have a pretty clear answer on that.
Yeah.
And there's also areas that are completely, streets that are completely unsidewalked, where we've had feedback where there should be a sidewalk, most notably the area between some of, the senior residences south of Guido's and working towards, say the Big Y. So, and it's a very popular topic of, why is that area getting a cleanly paved, very tidy cement sidewalk and other areas have nothing. Sure, there's a reason, but.
Yeah, so that'd be interesting for Joe to bring up.
So creating a sidewalk policy with creating them, how they're also selected, creating a standard for reporting or recommending new locations to be considered.
Yeah.
And then also what I'm gonna add in there, which I think is always missing, but extremely important, is a maintenance plan. What is the expectations once it's built to sustain it?
And I have a feeling when,
Yeah, I'm sorry, just a quick, pardon me, when you were speaking, you were referring to cement sidewalks versus some that were blacktop?
Yeah.
Okay, so I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah. And I think a lot of these, Joe has the answer to, we're not gonna do it tonight, but there is actually answers to these that may not be in writing, but we've talked about a lot of these, but I think just to organize it and put it together in writing is important.
Can you actually expound upon that, what you mean? Because I'm trying to figure out if are we trying to make some of the pavement now cement, which is gonna cost more money? Or we have actual good explanations for why some are pavement and why some are cement?
The way I bring it
I don't
up
have
is
a
just
problem.
going forward, right? So going forward, like, just having a set plan, so there isn't, a mix, so obviously I'm discussing Main Street and Housatonic, right? Where it goes from cement to blacktop, and then now you can cross Route 41 and you see cement sidewalks right across there, right? So now it, like I said, it happened, I guess, probably 4-something years ago at this point. And was it just a pivot because of something went wrong, or why did that happen, and why, and just making sure that it all stays the same going forward, and we have a clear explanation of why, so. That's what I'm saying. I'm not gonna pivot from here and ask to rip out a sidewalk that is perfectly usable in its current state. I'm just
If it's
something,
paid.
if it's pavement now, but I guess
So-
just,
Well, I just think of money, and I'm not quite sure if that's a good place to.
So let's let
Yeah.
Joe come back to us, because I think he has
Okay.
reasons why
I-
sometimes something may be cheaper. I'll give you a little foreshadowing, but doesn't last as long. So is it really cheaper?
right.
I think that
Well-
could be written, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Garfield. I think that could be actually outlined in the actual policy of what your expectations are for managing and the costs associated with it and how it is evaluated and determined and prioritized. So, is an area, is it going to add value? I think we talked about this morning, or this afternoon, is it going to add value? What does that actually mean? How, what is the material? So there's some standard, and then we can allow if a policy is in place and creating a standard, then members of the public can actually look at it and say, oh, this is what it is, this is what it's gonna mean, this is the process of going for requesting a sidewalk be placed, and how is it evaluated, and what's the criteria of meeting pavement versus blacktop versus whatever, or cement. So, or having a soft side shoulder on the side. And what does it look like? So I think that's really what it is. I don't think it would be, and then we can ask, include a financial section of it and what the process of getting that evaluated financially would mean.
If I remember correctly, I believe when we were doing the sidewalks and the cement sidewalks, we actually per state have to take the lowest bid. And I live up in Castle Hill Avenue. I don't have a castle. There's a lot of broken sidewalks, and that's just how it is, and I don't know, maybe I'm different. I don't know if it's a pain, but I don't have a problem walking on pavement or sidewalk. Pavement's not gonna break like the sidewalks, because we're obviously have to take the lowest bid. And if you're up on the hill, you can see there's a lot of broken cement. If we're gonna start repairing that, then it's gonna cost us more money. And if it's, I don't know, like I said, maybe it's people, maybe they feel like they want a real sidewalk, but we're gonna get low quality because it's mandated by the state.
Well, everything is lowest bid, even asphalt. It's gonna be lowest bid.
But, well, I haven't seen asphalt cracking on as much as cement.
So let's move on. We've beat to death this part and we have a long ways to go. Next is elevator repairs. I kind of think this is a no-brainer. Our elevators have to work. The ones in town hall, we haven't had a problem with recently, although Joe, you're ready to repair. But if we're gonna have public open meetings here, place has to be handicap accessible. So I think that's a high priority. I think that's fairly simple. Tier 2, and this is where I think we would probably put in Ramsdale. So we'll go through Housatonic Community Center updates, conference room grants. We just started not too long ago, a couple of years ago, starting to update the Housatonic Community Center. It looks a lot better. But I think our goal was to continue to update it, look for grants and let Joe give him the leeway if he finds a grant for bleachers, if that was what he needed, then to apply for it, not to restrict him by going in any specific order. But to see what we can do without using town funds, but then at some point, we may have to use town funds. Yeah, John?
On that subject of the community center, I think I shared with the board, and I think you were in favor of it, was the fact that we could focus on our continued efforts of developing it to make that a warming or emergency shelter,
Yes.
which we recently applied for a few grants for.
Yeah, no, I think that was a really good idea. But I think the Housatonic Community Center was used a tremendous amount years ago, and we kind of forgot to update it. You know, we didn't do a lot of updating, so, Ruby,
Can I speak up?
about the community center?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I really applaud the fact that you guys have put together
you know, health concerns and having a community center that is a healthy place for people to be, and also a resiliency center. And both are actually in the works for the Ramsdale. As you all know, this summer, we had some issues with the Mason Library not having, for some reason it was too hot. And so there were at least 35 people that ended up at Ramsdale. So it could certainly, in our plan, our building plan, that we have received a grant of, to cover at least 60% of the project. It would fulfill a community space as well as a resiliency center with healthy airflow, filtration system, good filters to prevent this COVID kind of pandemic situation. So I just want to keep that in everyone's mind, that there is already plans in place that the town could use on top of what you're proposing for the community center.
That's fine, and I agree with you, but that is on top of, I think the community center deserves to continue to be updated
Yes.
as we move along. Anyone else on the community center? The fire station, the 20 Castle easement, I don't think we've done anything with that in a long, long time. And I'm not sure that shouldn't go down to tier 3. It has to do with it, there's an easement to get to the back of the old fire station.
Yeah.
There's still a electric pole blocking the easement,
Yeah.
as I understand it. No one wants to pay to move that electric pole, but National Grid, I think eventually, and Chris, do you remember more of this than I do?
I don't, I'm sorry, Steve, I know that when the easements were created, it was sort of without regard to the infrastructure that was in place.
Yeah.
And now you're at the point where some of that infrastructure is just overloaded and can't support redevelopment around it.
I think this is one to come back to us. We haven't had any complaints about it or.
So it's an electric capacity?
It's electric capacity plus it's a physical barrier. So we don't need to spend a lot of time because this has been a while and.
Yeah, I don't remember this ever coming up in my.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been here long. So I think this is a good time to put on, under tier 2, the Ramsdale Library project. I think that's important to put in here. The town has put in through CPA some money and there's a hardworking committee on it. So I think that's important that we invest time of our administration to work on this project.
Thank you.
Then 5G technology. Again, let's see if there's any hint in here. It's been a while since we've looked at this.
So it's not currently on the to-do list.
I mean, there is a fair amount. Come up with the housing authority, I mean, the really quick version of this, I'm sorry I'm getting this wrong, is that the town provided some subsidy to a local vendor, Fiber Connect, to provide high-speed internet to town, and then to eventually get that connectivity to Housatonic. And a lot of that work, I think, has already been done, thanks to a lot of hard work from Chris and others. And Fiber Connect is in the process of connecting various entities along that route. And we're exploring that with Housing Authority, Brookside. So anyway, it comes up and there's a need to interact with the water company and the sewer company and to make sure we're not messing with anyone's piping if we put in underground conduit. So it's an ongoing process. It's really not a tier 1, but it's definitely an ongoing live item that may require the building department or your office to get involved to help facilitate it.
So we can leave that there, that's fine.
Yeah, I would, yeah, it's still happening.
Yeah. Okay, the next category would be public safety and health and safety. The highest impact and core priorities, tier 1, is the ambulance service study. Chris, do you have an update on that?
I do not, please, tonight, no, there's probably two topics under ambulance, one is. One is the regionalization study that's on. Working collaboratively, making sure you have enough information about the Southern Berkshire ambulance. Their financial position and their expectations of the town's contribution to their services to maintain 911 service and essential service. So there's the working with the existing system and how that impacts the town financially, and then secondly, the broader regional study.
And I think that's, no doubt, that's a tier one, that's something that we need to keep working on. Yeah, Phil.
Just one comment to make on this, I think, it kind of crosses on a lot of topics here, is that a lot of these, priorities or initiatives, they're very dramatically in how much work they'll require from you or the staff. So I'd say the regional ambulance study, I believe we have a participant on that. Maybe it's Chief Turner, I don't recall. We have a participant on that board, but it's really being undertaken by others. So it's very important, but it doesn't require, at least from based on what I know, a lot of staff time. Whereas there could be other items that are, sound like they're much more, or less critical, but they require a huge amount of staff time. So I'll put like making our new website work perfectly, that will require a lot of time and it may appear to be less critical. So I just want to make that distinction as we go through it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And the other is the heating and cooling centers, which I think continue to be a problem, plus an initiative that we need to have, and I think Phil's working on it, so I think that would stay tier one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then tier two, Chief Turner's here, the fire department study. I think that needs to be ongoing. Yeah, I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done. So, I wouldn't move that anywhere. I think that's important.
No, I think we've all agreed that that the larger issue is that our fire department funding requirements may go up over time as we migrate further away from the prior years of reliance on volunteers.
And you can look at the Southern Berkshire Ambulance Squad, no longer Volunteer Ambulance Squad, as a model to that volunteer organizations are harder and harder to maintain. But in the same respect, we need to figure out a way to fund it. So I think this is highly important.
If you don't mind, some of these areas, I may, if you're okay with, adding to this, I'm just bringing it back to the board when we're done with today's conversation. So then I can add more detail to it and create a sense of timeline and expectation that, again, I'll just need your review and you to approve. So then we have like more of a formal document that we can work off of and again, have some clear expectations of what we want to accomplish together in unison for the year.
Not only wouldn't we mind it, we'd welcome it.
Okay, good. Then I'm offering to do word for word.
Yeah.
So you need
Okay.
to prioritize our priority.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, no problem. That's why we're here tonight, doing this.
But I think that, to your point, the regionalization, you're right, will take less of our time, but it's important, it's on here to show that we support.
Oh, absolutely, and
Right.
it's critical, and then there's the whole issue of, and this gets very technical about, how our fire department works with our, Southern Berkshire ambulance. And are we doing everything we can to make that as efficient as possible for both of them?
Well, I think this is also really important for me to understand, and demonstrate or keep on the conversation, because I feel like this is something that as your staff support, the town manager is required to help you achieve your goals. And so I need to know what those are, and so we can set those timelines, so then, when you are reviewing my performance, that you can actually already know that I'm helping you work on achieving something that you're expecting me to do on a daily basis, so. Okay, thank you.
So next is speed calming measures, traffic management, that's being worked on, it's on email today.
Yeah.
So that we know is being worked on in different neighborhoods, and we've talked about it, we had the neighbors from the East Street area here a little while ago, so. And then there's some areas that it's, we continue to get complaints about.
Yeah,
And
I think
Housatonic.
as you spend time driving through our community, you'll probably experience some of that.
Or citizen speak on, there'll be people who
Yeah.
do, who
No,
rightfully
it's-
complain.
I joke about it a bit, but it's a very real issue. I'm sure you've heard it from many people.
Do we have we decided a timeline on that?
But that's what Liz was talking about, coming back to us with timelines on all of these, you're right.
Right.
It's nice to have goals, but if they're open-ended, it's not as helpful. You're absolutely right. So,
There's the East Street corridor, which is in town. And then there's some of the main thoroughfares from the surrounding towns that are used by other towns to come into our town and spend money, hopefully, but there's a lot of speeding going on there.
Tier 3 would be the childcare accessibility assessment. Ben, briefly, you're the one who brought this initiative forward. We formed a committee.
Yep, committee is up and operating right now. There's been kind of looking at assessment of currently where childcare stands in town and surrounding area, talking to different providers and organizations to get an idea of how we can bring resources that are available in other parts of the county down to Great Barrington. They are working on bringing recommendations to the board at a future date. So I would say right now, as far as just having staff available to, I don't know, what the request will be, but when they do come in, just to make sure that they are, that we help however we can, but I think the actual needs will kind of become clear as the committee continues to do its work.
Okay, great. Thank you.
The next one, the third one is housing, which, and these 6 categories are not in any particular order.
No.
So just to be clear to anyone who says, well, why is housing third? No, categories are not in any order. So under the tier 1, the highest impact is, and the core priority is affordable and workforce housing, aging in place. I don't know that we have to talk a lot about that. I think that's extremely important. There's 2 suggested ones on here. And Liz, do you want to talk about tier 2 and tier 3?
Well, I want to go back to tier 1.
Sure.
Because, I just want to kind of know what exactly is, I mean, I know aging in place is a priority, but what again is a benchmark for this upcoming year of, do you want to work more in collaboration with the Affordable Housing Trust? Do you want to gain more partnerships? Do you want to provide different types of support? Like, what is it exactly? Because I think that will help with, I was assuming the zoning, and I was assuming the public-private partnership opportunities. So again, that tier 1 is essential to kind of determine what the tier 2 and tier 3 are. But these 2, tier 2 and tier 3 are kind of generic standards that I've, in many communities that I've worked for, that are like, they're the dominoes of helping get to the final result. So, yeah.
Yeah, it
More
would seem,
discussion on
yeah,
this
it would seem,
help.
I think it would seem to me that it's a couple things. One, we support the Affordable Housing Trust, which is a town organization.
Yeah.
But I think also that by putting it on this, our strategic planning, that we dedicate time and effort to cooperate with the various organizations that are in the area that are trying to promote affordable and workforce housing. So even though if it wasn't on here, not saying you wouldn't cooperate,
Right,
but I think it's important that we say it's important that, when someone comes with either a zoning problem or something that has to do with our infrastructure to get to a site or whatever, that we work with them and make sure that we understand that this is important if they're working on affordable or workforce housing.
Yeah, if I can add to that, I guess. A lot of what I've been hearing, and actually, I think Phil brought it up at one time, is like classifying our area in a certain manner. So
The seasonal community.
seasonal community
Yeah.
effort, and I think that falls into place, cause as the feedback I get is, you know, we do have a lot of affordable housing getting put in certain, with certain restrictions. But what we don't have is housing being developed where our new police officers, our teachers, our, you know, staff from Fairview, people that are making, what appears to be a good wage, but still can't afford to play here, and they price themselves out with a medium, average income
Yeah.
that some of these housing projects have on them. So I would put that area in more of a higher priority, in my opinion, so we can house our police officers, our nurses, our teachers, our firefighters. And however we can encourage people to build to meet that need is something that obviously the whole country needs to figure out, but we'll figure it out first. I think.
Is it, sorry, Eric, so is it something that you want a little bit more in-depth conversations and learning about what are other techniques that other communities are successfully using and just examining it? So is that a starting point that you want to just look at things, or is it that you want to make actual changes and reform and create a committee to evaluate, or like, I mean, this is
Yeah.
where I just wanna have like this conversation, cause it hasn't been done in a little bit of time that I've looked back in your
Yeah.
meetings and stuff, and.
So,
and
so
just-
I think one example, Eric talked about the seasonal community,
Right,
which Phil's brought up. I'm not in favor of it. I'm not against it. I think we need to work to figure out if, first of all, the state hasn't promulgated all the regulations, so
right,
that's another problem.
yes,
But I think as this goes along, we need guidance as how that'll affect this town if we decide to discuss adopting it. So, I don't think we have the expertise.
just keeping aware and of how.
Yeah,
Yeah, like you
So
mentioned,
state
if there's somebody that's had like different areas, maybe out in the Cape or whatever, that has had, whether even if it's a small amount of success, working with a public-private relationship or something to get this sort of like real workforce housing, off the ground. I would like to see that sort of thing.
I agree.
yeah, and then well after this was written, we haven't even talked about Simon's Rock, and we don't really have enough knowledge to talk about it. But that may or may not be a huge place for workforce or affordable housing. We don't know what's gonna happen there, and that may put a lot of time and effort from both Chris and Liz into that.
Yeah, and that, well, this is another one of these, you know, line items that we could easily spend, you know, another couple of days on.
Right.
What the town is not a developer, you know, we assist, we contribute funds to and encourage and support other entities to develop housing. What I would say, what I like to point out, which is kind of an intersection of, you know, of all the zoning issues that are related to housing, is that one thing that I believe that worked extremely well is all the work everyone put in. I was not involved is the Houstonic School project. So there's a big challenge. There's always a big challenge that is to find properties that can be used for someone to develop some kind of housing. So, and I think it was great that we, instead of sort of asking all these other parties to search and find, you know, a developable property, that we were fortunate to have one. We packaged it up in a terrific way, put it out to the marketplace, and so we end up having a nice housing that's currently being renovated in Houstonic. So instead of, you know, so if we could find other ways to do that, where we could sort of find property suitable to a certain type of housing development and packaging it, you know, trying to get some amount of sort of pre-approvals. I say that in quotes. I know that's an oversimplification, but just trying to go out and to tell the development world, this could happen here. I think that would be a great way to move that forward. And again, easier said than done.
We'd have to have, someone who's willing to do workforce housing. I'm on the Affordable Housing Trust Committee as well. And you're certainly getting some pushback and people aren't happy. And I was talking with Liz about it, that some of the work that's being done here isn't affording people from Great Barrington to live in these places, but a lot, if it's federally funded, well, you're not gonna be able to do that because there's housing laws, so we have to try to figure out a way, if it's possible, that we can get our residents in there. And I also think we need to find a way, because housing and workforce housing, police, et cetera, is gonna be a little different than, obviously, than affordable housing. And it's gonna be more costly. We also need, like I said, I think it's nice to have the support from the select board and the town manager behind the affordable housing committee.
So give you a little more.
Yes, it actually does. Thank you.
Do you want to talk about tier 2 or 3, or is that all
I
kind
think,
of
I
in
think
the?
I've got enough
Yeah, that's right.
now to add and shift around. And again, this is just a draft,
Mm.
which then I will be coming back for your review one more time before we make anything more firmed up.
Can I add one thing real quick?
Of course.
Top of, I think we talk a lot about new construction as part of the solution to this. I would love to see us identifying and implementing strategies that help people actually stay in the homes that they're currently in, both homeowners and renters who are kind of struggling with affordability. Whether that is incentives to homeowners or landlords that they can pass on to renters, any sort of programs that are currently in existence in the state that we wouldn't have to get, a home rule petition or something to actually provide people with some relief.
Because I was telling Liz too before that, that there is, affordable housing, but we also need to let people know a little bit better, make it a broader scheme so they can get that. But I think, it's not gonna be easy. It's not gonna be.
So next will be sustainability and environment. Highest impact tier 1 would be Reed's Cleaners property assessment. I think it's gone past the property assessment, but it's Chris, you want to just give us a brief update on that? And just real brief, you live it every day.
We took out, I don't know how many truckloads of waste during the month of September. Dug like 20 feet down. So pretty extensive removal operation there. Backfill with clean soil. It's still due to be paved probably shortly. That was the major thrust of the brownfields remediation curve. To get it to a state where the town could possibly offer it up for redevelopment for maybe housing, maybe something like that. Pending testing, we'll have a report on that in the next 30 to 45 days.
So that obviously is still a high priority. It would be great to get that piece of property ready for sale.
So is that instead of assessment, it would be the future and
Yeah.
having a discussion? on
Yeah, I think the
future?
building has to come down. Whether we take it down or we sell it as is and their buyer takes it down, we haven't.
We don't know.
Yeah.
What the disposition of the site or the building is
Right.
to be discussed.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
so, okay,
Yeah, we're past assessment though.
great.
And then sustainable waste management. I don't know how much we've ever talked about that. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I just don't know that you can find it in our minutes.
Transportation kiosk.
Yeah,
It's probably more than that, huh?
Is that also composting as part of that? I assume that's.
I think so, but I will tell you, yeah, it was a pilot program at the transfer station concluding soon, grant money exhausted. Board of Health is evaluating future of the program at this time. I think that's Ruby left, so I think it would be something that we ask the Board of Health where they are on that, and if they're not, we either take it off or move it down.
Yeah, I think you're right. There's data that we can look at from the pilot program. I think it was heavily used. I think what the future looks like is the question. Would be great to get something in place.
Yeah.
But
Then tier 2 would be open space and recreation plan update. Chris is working on that. He probably has a little more time now to work on it, so that stays where it is. The dog park implementation is an interesting one. I've been here, give or take 15 years, and we've had a couple plans for dog parks, and we have not found a location for one, nor every time there has been a proposal for a dog park, it's been by a private group who wants the town to partner with them or do the work for it. If it's in a neighborhood, the neighbors don't want barking dogs and cars. And if it's somewhere outside of a neighborhood, people say they don't want to drive there. And I don't know how big a priority this is when we look at Housatonic Waterworks, infrastructure, affordable housing. I just don't know if this is in the same league as that. And I may get pushback.
Yeah, I mean, just a reminder, this is just for this upcoming fiscal year.
Right.
So I think we just need to be, again, I think Ben had mentioned it, that there's a lot of work. All of these things require a lot of work, but if it's something that you want to consider as a support for a certain membership in your community that's important, or that, let's say that open space is being overrun by dog waste and that we're having kids in fields, you know, slipping on for a soccer game that, you know, because people are not having a place for their dogs to safely go, then that's a conversation that we kind of need to shift the planning process to achieve other issues that are in that realm. So that's what, again, why I just need to have this conversation with you of, is this something, what was it, like, let's figure this out so then I can have staff focus on it.
If a group came forward with a piece of property and they wanted the town to work on it, that would be fine. But do I want you or Chris or other staff members to spend time on this and not spend time on Housatonic Water or the bridges? I think not.
Yeah, my feeling on it is almost, I think this would be a prime candidate for like a committee, that I think it is something that it does affect quality of life. And that it's people want, and I think we would get some people raising their hands to come together and do the legwork of actually finding some potential sites that then they could bring as a recommendation to the town without having to spend staff time on it. I think that's probably the.
If those things are both if you're capable of doing both, in other words, sometimes when you form a committee, they expect staff's time.
Yeah.
To be fair, it will impact staff time. Anything that you're proposing to add a town asset and resource will require town time. People will say that, especially with dog parks, I've only known one out of probably 20 on the Cape that actually has a robust volunteership that will actually take care of it. All the others have then said they will do it, and then it falls back on DPW.
Yeah.
So again, that's a conversation that we need to, and that's why it's so important to have this conversation now before we start planning our upcoming budget, because those are the decisions that if you're going to support a dog park, I need to know, so then we may need to in capital improvement, or how is that gonna impact us? So that's why,
When you,
I would say, when I think it was the first year I was on that, Ed Abrams was working with a group of people on a dog park, very difficult, a lot of time spent on it. I don't see it as a very big priority right now.
when you do
personally.
strategic planning, sometimes you have what's called the parking lot.
Yeah.
And that's where I would put that, like in the side,
Yeah.
maybe next year.
yeah.
But, and we won't forget it, but we're not gonna put a dime into it and we're not gonna put staff time into it.
Okay.
Now, sometimes after we have a discussion, someone will call one of us and say, how dare you do that? We have 6 people who wanna work on it. Terrific. That's nothing wrong with that, but there's a lot of work that goes into it, and I think we have a lot of other priorities.
If I may just say, and I agree with you and all that. First, well, I think would be a good spot, I think, would be on South Street. The reason I say that is because we have 2 funeral homes there, so there's not gonna be a lot of pushback from the people in the funeral homes because there's a dog.
Do you wanna give your email address now to the other neighbors or?
I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with it.
Tier,
Holly's daddy. Gmail.com, send it up.
tier 3 is Ruston River status monitoring. I think that stays a priority for us. I
Yes.
think it's been quiet recently, but it takes up a lot of Chris's time, I know, and I think it would be behoove us to keep it as a priority. Economic development, tier 1 Cook's Garage property. I would love to see Cook's Garage no longer be part of the town property. And that the garage get sold or something happened to it.
Yep.
So I think that's important.
HIC sent it up to put out for RFP,
Yeah,
right? So-
Yeah, I think working with HIC, and I think it's really important. That's one of those that's not ongoing. Once we get rid of it, we get rid of it. And we actually take something off our list.
Mhm.
That doesn't happen often. Downtown parking strategy. As long as Great Barrington has a vibrant downtown, we're gonna have discussions about parking. So it just stays there, it ebbs and flows. It's, I don't know that there's anything to do right now.
So again, so this is another category, now I'm putting back my parking hat on from 8 years of being in Barnstable, and overseeing parking in downtown Hyannis. What exactly is your strategy that you want? Like, do you want to have a possible assessment of it? Do you want to manage it better? Do you want to evaluate? I know this is the third rail conversation, but paid parking? Like, what is it that you guys want to do in a strategy? Or do you want to, for me to examine the impacts and looking at or having the conversation with the chamber and the community and creating some opportunity for them to give you some dialogue as to what their heartburn is?
So I think what's interesting is you can talk to 20 people in town government on boards and stuff. And they'll have 20 different opinions on parking in Great Barrington. I can tell you that parking problem is when there's a lot of open spaces. Someone else will tell you what the parking problem is when there's no open spaces.
And sometimes they'll think that there's open spaces, but when you do an actual evaluation of it, there's really not
Right.
that many. open
And
spaces.
so I think gathering feedback from interested parties, business people,
Mhm.
people who shop downtown, local people, et cetera. So we can figure out, do we have a parking problem? And if we do, how are we gonna solve it? And what is the problem? I don't know. I'm sure Chris has gone through this his years here. It's always, there's not even an agreement whether we have a problem.
Right, or is it something, I'm sorry, Garfield.
Go ahead, then I'll.
I was gonna say, or is it wayfinding signage and getting people to the parking? Is that something that you wanna
We
examine?
did that one,
So,
spots.
and bring it back into staff for review to see if it's something that could be implemented and what is the structure of implementation or our recommendations to move forward? Because again, this is where capital investments come into play. I need to know if this is something that you, as the select board, are supporting the business community because you're hearing from them that this is necessary. And then what can we do to mitigate some of those areas so the customers get to the businesses? So.
Go ahead.
If I may say, and it probably won't be very popular, but I'm gonna say it, and Joe or someone can correct me. But I think a few years back, in our infinite wisdom, the town actually took out 8 parking spots. It may be more. That's a problem. That wasn't very good planning as far as I'm concerned.
Mhm.
You remove 8 parking spots, that's money in the bank. That people could be there shopping, they could get in the spot. So I'm not excited about how that happened. And I think it wasn't a good idea, in my opinion.
So to go off of what Steve was saying, I think gathering information, working with the chamber, to just talking to stakeholders downtown, getting understanding of exactly what the current feeling about what the problem is, their problem, but conducting some sort of study on our own side to actually understand how parking is being used, the ratio of, town residents to out of town residents on a daily basis at different peak times throughout the year. How effective our current signage is, it's there. Do people read it? That's,
Right.
yeah.
But even placement, simple as actually just walking down the street or driving it, because I mean, that's a good thing about having a brand new town manager is that I'm seeing this in real time. Like I was looking at this and I was like, what does this even mean? So if I'm looking at signs and I have my parking lens on, my parking glasses on, and they're like, I can't even see where the parking signs are. Like, where are public parking and what are the rules for it? Is it, there's 24-hour overnight, but is that for permitted parking? Is that for residents only? Is that for open? Like, and those are small changes that we can do that might help and solve a bigger problem, so.
So there was a parking committee way back when that did a huge amount of work on this topic, and they produced, I believe, an elaborate, highly detailed, color-coded map of
Sure.
the various parking options you have in town, which, in my view, is an enormous amount of work, and you probably need a PhD to really truly understand how it all works together. So it's a combination of properties, all of which have
Yeah.
different availabilities. To me, the biggest sort of divide is we do have a lot of parking, but we don't have that clearly delineated municipal lot with a big sign saying public parking as visitors driving in town. So it's a, you know, it's a confusing topic for first-time visitors.
Oh, while we're talking about parking, I'm not sure if it belongs here, but I think we've all, I won't say forgotten about it, but put it in our back pocket, Mahawi Street. And that's just one example. So we approved by special permit a development on Mahawi Street, and we said we need to look at Mahawi Street and decide if it's going to be one way. I'm against that, but or it's right now allows parking on both sides, which quite honestly, even if that development didn't go there, you can't park on both sides and fit cars both ways up and down.
Yeah.
So I think Mahawi Street's important for us to look at, but then we really haven't looked, are there other streets that are like Mahawi that for safety reasons should not have parking on both sides? So I don't know if it goes in this category.
It does actually, it does, because, getting people to the parking and then safely, and if it's, where it's placed is really, it is a strategy, so it's a science, you're right, you need a PhD, but luckily I get really excited about parking. So, as you can see, I'm really like knowledgeable, and I'm like, yes, I love parking, so,
And we promised the neighbors
Here,
that we would
yeah.
look at Mahawi, so
Okay.
we can't.
No,
Yeah.
that's a
Okay.
very good point, that we just had an approval. Well, I won't call it an approval, but a project is gonna proceed. And there was a lot of discussion about do we need additional parking capacity on that.
So we maybe take a wider range. It says downtown, that's one, but there are maybe other neighborhoods
Yeah.
that we need to look at also.
okay, perfect.
And then the next is small business assistant and job creation program. Now, I think that comes in the Office of Planning. I don't know how much, Chris, you have time or work on that?
It depends what you all mean. But by that, I think it's just always been something that's been on there.
It sounds good, but we've never defined it.
You don't know what that means. What do you think?
Well, for one, it's small business assistant. We all know that, the town has a reputation, I don't think it's fair, but of not being business friendly.
Mhm.
I think that's unfair, but we need to find out from people why we have that reputation. And I always tell people when they have a question or a business related question to call Chris. Because I think that Chris is more than knowledgeable and willing to work with people. So I think that's an important part about small business assistance. Someone wants to put a restaurant on Railroad Street in an empty spot and they have some questions. Is there someone at town hall who can help them? Because we want to encourage small businesses to come to town. So,
Yeah, I think that's a great point. It's just, I think one circumstance where that criticism comes up is when you have someone who's looking to start a new business in town or move into town or expand their business. And, you know, they need to go through a fairly complex set of machinations to get everything approved with various departments, complete various forms, walk around town hall in a way, and they just don't know how to do it. So in a perfect world, you know, there would be a one-stop facilitator that would help guide them through this process. That's easier said than done, but, you know, if we could at least do our best to act like we really want to try to make that easier, I think that would be appreciated.
yeah, we get complaints a lot that it's not friendly. We have a lot of regulations and people don't want to have to come necessarily with a lawyer and spend a lot of money. They want to be able to come and have something a little simpler than that.
Our DRT, our development review team, which involves most of the permitting staff, DPW, police, does that, is a one-stop shop, and all of our doors are open, so we do that on a daily basis. But there will always be regulations to
Yeah.
follow. And we help people to understand those.
I think a lot of times I've heard that in many communities, but in reality, I think it's a lack of education and promotion of what services are available and who to access. And I think, talk about the online and the website, I think that's the first place, or providing information, tools at the chamber, which might be the first stop that businesses or people that are interested in investing in a new business in this community. I think that is where there's some opportunities that are tangible for us to achieve, and then watch and see how the feedback is received. I think that's also very important, is creating a mechanism for people to provide feedback once they've received the services. How was it? And let's see how we can improve. So I think that might be again, a goal for us in strategy, that we can, how can we just improve our services, and in what way?
Yeah, I mean, it might be a simple, I mean, I hear Chris's comment, I know he's terrific on this, but it might be as simple as on our website, having a
Yep.
button that says, if you want to open a business in Great Barrington, start by calling the office of the town planner. You know, that might be just as simple as that, and that would be very helpful.
Right.
The other thing that again, I don't know where it goes, so I'm gonna bring it out. I had Natalie send out the sign bylaw. Michelle has talked about it, and I talked to Matt Comer in the building department about it. Our sign bylaw has not been updated since 2010.
Mhm.
He agrees that it needs to be updated, and I think that's a priority for a couple of reasons. A sign bylaw is only good if it's enforceable.
It's anybody.
Yeah, as any bylaw is. But this,
Anybody.
but this one is 15 years old
Yeah.
and really needs to be updated. So I'd like to see that added to the list. Not that we need to add more, but in order to get this done, I think that's important to add it to it.
Are you, where would the board like that to be, in a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3?
We haven't put a lot on Matt's plate, not that he doesn't have a lot, so I'm good with tier
Yeah.
1.
Okay.
I don't think this should be a 2 or 3 year project.
Anything we can do to simplify
Yep.
those codes.
I think it need to be simplified. We need consistent enforcement.
Hmm.
Which is not easy because town has more signs than maybe people.
Yeah, I took a look at it, it's pretty elaborate.
Yeah,
We're still talking about the under economic development, or are we down one more to municipal services?
no, we're actually still on economic development. I'm just throwing things in because I don't know
Okay.
where they belong.
I think actually a lot of these overlap, Eric,
Okay.
so, I kind of just placed them in where.
I do
general, but I think
agree that it needs to be at a higher level. I just wasn't
Okay.
sure which
Yep.
one we were putting it
Yeah.
in.
so
Great.
Okay, last on the goals, municipal service delivery. Tier 1. Highest impact core priority, employment, recruitment and retention.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm not sure what that means.
okay. Yeah, I kind of wanted to know, what your thoughts were on that.
I think with that, in my mind, what that was is, not only, town hall staff, but, like police officers, fire department, all that, just trying to be able to make sure that, you know, I think it was 6-8 months ago, there was headlines on how it was hard to keep, staff in town halls and in the public sector, I guess, in general. And so we have a great team all the way around, and just trying to make sure that, whether it's even like from promotions from within and educating and all that, but keeping our staff growing as needed, and keeping them up to speed on all the education, and making them
Yeah.
happy to be here in general.
Yeah, but I think like any business, we do better if we retain our employees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they have knowledge that it's hard to replace. And you can't always retain everyone, but I think and then when we recruit employees, to hire the best we can hire.
Mm.
It seems easy, but it's not as easy as that. Website and email domain standardization, I think we're done with the email. Chris can correct me, I think we're on .gov and we're finally done with that, so that maybe can come off. I think the website should say to maintain, to finish the website. Build out and then maintain it.
Yeah, I think the website needs a good amount of work still.
It's not done, and the problem with website, it's kind of like, other things that people do, it's fine to, let's say we get it 100% perfect, well, the next day it's outdated. So if we don't have people working on it,
Yeah.
then it's like policies.
Yeah.
It's just, we're all gonna start all over again, and we don't wanna do that.
And I would propose we broaden that out to just the overall topic of sort of communication and information flow with the community.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I absolutely, it's not even on here, and it should be.
Okay, so
Yeah, yeah.
as an anecdote, like, just before Halloween, you know, there was, I probably had like, there was like 20 to 30 emails on the Google group in my neighborhood up on the hill, just about, well, when is trick or treat? Okay, so something,
Yeah.
something as hopefully simple as the trick or treat hours was 5:30 to 7:30. Just know, you know, the town tried to get it out there in various ways. It was here, it was on, probably on the website, but it was like 20 to 30 people who had no idea. And we're struggling to figure out how to do it. So, again, I don't, take from that what you will, but, you know, it's, an anecdotal example of
Mhm.
communication flow not working.
But I think a more important one, not that Halloween wasn't important, the last election where you and I ran, I got a lot of complaints that people didn't even know there was an election in May.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so I think we do our best, but we need to kind of,
No,
reevaluate.
yeah,
what
no,
we're doing.
it actually permeates an array of
It does.
topics.
Yeah.
People are underinformed about things they should be more informed of, and I don't know exactly what's going wrong, but it's. People get too many emails, they don't read emails, they don't go to the website.
I actually wrote down on the bottom, add communication priority, because I'm starting to see it in everything, that
We-
there's this.
Fix all that,
Like-
yeah.
By next meeting. Next,
Just in that
yeah, go
vein,
ahead.
with the, first of all, I think, I don't know, I think these people might be living under a rock. Halloween's been the same time for about 100 years. I'm not sure why they didn't get that. So that,
Well, I should have told them to call you.
that has been fine, but we've had it out there. I also, what I was gonna say is I think maybe we should even let people know who's on the select board. I have people come up to me and say, are you still on the select board? Are you on the select board?
So that's a really good point, that these three actually tie in. So under committee charters, I think there's a whole lot we can do with our committees. One is on the website, which was the bullet point before. There should be a simple tab, and a lot of them there are, I know there's parks, that you click on and you see who's on the committee. You see one paragraph of what that committee does. Hopefully you see something about when they meet and who to contact if you have a question or concern.
Right.
You should be just user friendly. And then what I do think we're doing a decent job of, although not totally successfully, is when there are vacancies, to let people know there are vacancies. And we've tried everything. I don't know we can do much more. I know we hand out things at town meeting, we advertise, but again, that's under communication. But some of these are thankless committees and people don't want to serve on it. I can't
I
imagine
know
why.
one in particular. No, that's a genuine problem.
Yeah.
And it's all back to the, communication.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, tier 2 is public safety staffing and plan.
Mhm.
I think, we know the fire department. Chief can tell you that fire department has probably been ignored for a little while now. And we need to work on staffing there, but it's also true that, a police officer, like a fireman, we spend a lot of money to train them. And then they leave for $5,000 more in another town after 2 years. We need to figure out a way to keep the staffing so that, it's not always, it's not gonna be foolproof. But I think it's important that we continue to keep that as a priority. Update select board policies. I think our select board policies are not up to date. We did change some of them right around when Lee left. We finally finished them. I think Natalie did a lot of work on them. I think select board policies should be an ongoing review by someone in town government so that they don't get outdated after like 3 years and then we have to do a complete revision. But whether it's because things change in town, policies change, regulations change, state law changes, whatever it is, I think someone keeping an eye on our select board policies is important. And then inclusiveness and diversity initiatives, I think that just is something that we need to keep on here. And then tier 3 is a master plan review with the planning board. I think the planning board does an excellent job and that's important. And then the next one is sign zoning, which is the sign bylaw. I guess that, I may have jumped the gun, but it's been on there if it's been on there, we haven't done anything since 2010, so to really review that.
Steve, would the topic of, special permit enforcement go under this category?
I think that could be there too. I think the select board, longstanding members at least, and planning board, at least some members, we spend an inordinate amount of time on special permits. When there are ones, they're complicated. And then we put conditions down that may not be enforceable, and then they don't get enforced. And we've just spent a lot of time. One of my suggestions has been, and this is a good place to bring it up, if we're gonna put conditions on, that's the responsibility of, let's say, the building inspector. Let's have him come to our meetings so he can say, are you nuts? I can't do that. That's unenforceable. But we spend, meeting after meeting, working on this, get a lot of input, and then for whatever reason, there's no enforcement. Chris, am I wrong?
Everything could be improved.
Nice.
So I think if we're gonna spend that much time on it, I think the airport's a good example. We put some really crazy conditions on there that seemed good at the time. But there's no one in town government to see how many planes are flying in there and look at reports, et cetera, that are supposed to be turned in every 6 months. Maybe they are, maybe they're not, but we're not hearing about it. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I can, I'll just add that I'll review the special permit enforcement process. And then look at ways to recommend improving it, and streamlining it. Also, I find with special permits, it may be a planning board or select board, condition that's placed. But it could trigger actually other types of departments, not just the zoning enforcement officer. For example, licensing is a really good example. Liquor licenses or entertainment licenses may have special permits that are granted on them. And you or the planning board could create conditions within that special permit that then actually, because if it's not communicated to the licensing authority, which is you or the staff, to know that a special permit had conditions on it, that language should actually be placed into the license itself, so that continuity isn't lost over time, over generations of employees. You talk about all of this institutional knowledge, well, that leaves when somebody goes, but if it's on the license, it stays. So that information being passed along and shared in a database or something, like those are things that I think that if staff can look at recommendations on how to better improve the special permit enforcement. So such as conservation issues or anything like that, those are things that we need to have a collaborative effort to make sure that the property owner is set up for success.
Yeah, and to be clear, I'm not blaming the enforcement part of this.
100%.
Sometimes it's us as a select board who puts on conditions that if we had a
Yep.
discussion with the enforcement officer, they may have suggestions to improve how it's worded and what it says.
Okay.
Right, well, we haven't done that ever. It's a great idea.
Anyone have anything else? This is probably gonna take more than 2 weeks of Liz's time to get all this done, but
Have it done tonight.
yeah.
I just, one, I'm not sure where this goes, but we talk a lot about sort of policy towards businesses and policies towards real estate development property, I just. The question is, do we have an overall strategy about how the town deals with all the nonprofits in the area? We have an enormous number of nonprofit organizations. So some of them, you know, fall into the housing category and they're really part of the affordable housing, category. But there are an array of other nonprofits, all of which doing good work. And some of them may feel in various situations that they're not being treated appropriately. So it's a constituency that I would want to have somewhere on your list.
In what way, like, I mean, do you wanna strengthen the collaboration that we're increasing our communications so there isn't double effort of the same work? Or
A flashpoint topic has been with a couple of nonprofits, has been whether or not they should be receiving a real estate, property tax statement.
Okay.
Been a lot of confusion in that over the years with respect to certain properties.
Okay.
And also there's a lack of awareness as to exactly how those decisions are made. So,
Phil and I have worked with one in particular that. I'm not saying it was wrong or right, just it's not making a lot of sense of how it got from point A to point B.
right, and they make a number of legitimate arguments about how they may have been treated differently than other nonprofits. So again, it ties into the assessor's office and,
Yep.
and there's a lot of state rules that you know better than me about that, but it should be somewhere on the list is this happen.
Okay,
No, I think that's a good one. Actually.
okay.
Anyone have anything else before we put this to bed? I will say, we usually do this in June and January. This will come back in, you know, a much shorter period of time for a review. So
Sounds good to me.
So,
we'll
yeah,
get back on track.
it's, actually, it's gonna be coming more frequent, not just sooner.
Good.
It's gonna be more in the dialogue and the justification for projects that are becoming before you in any capital request. So anything that is gonna be presented will have to fall within areas of focus or justification. So to meet some of these goals. So this is where the beginning of a system and a standard in place. So, but again, I thank you so much for helping me create some organization in this and structure. So we can really add consistency and achieve some of these not faster, but just more efficiently. That's all.
Good.
Wait, Garfield comes back and we'll go on to the next topic. Yes. This is more of a season.
Yeah.
Okay, citizens speak. Donna, go right ahead. You know the drill.
Donna Jacobs, 260 Park Street. And for our new town manager's benefit, I'm just gonna say that I am a Housatonic Waterworks customer and was disgusted by my water source for a few years and really started to wear it. And I built in my house and it was a whole new life. Because I could wake up in the morning, wash my face and the water was clean instead of really awful and disgusting. And because the filtration was so successful in my house, I said, well, gee, we've been working so hard for years, the Selectboard board and the town has been working so hard for years to get something going with Housatonic Waterworks to improve the quality of our water, to make sure that everybody they serve has safe water, potable water. And there hasn't been a lot of movement. There've been a lot of ideas, but nothing's really materialized. So because my filters worked so well, I thought, well, this is the outside run, you know, this is the remediation. This is the solution to the problem for people in the community who are not, who don't have clean water. We just have to filter their houses. And we can filter each household at the point of entry where the water comes in from the utility into their homes. It can get filtered, and when it reaches their taps, people will have the experience that I started having when I filtered my water. So because of this idea, a few of us started working together and we developed a Housatonic Filter Initiative plan. And it's getting some play. People are starting to find out about it a little bit. But the first step in this plan is to identify where is the need. We have 824 households. So we're out there on the street taking surveys and checking off addresses, indicating where the need is. Following night, I spoke to 35 people. And of the 35 people, 29 require filtration. So that's not so terrible. It means that not everybody, not all the 824 homes are going to require filtration. We don't know how many yet, but we do know that it's not going to be 824 because I'm one, and so it's now 823. Okay. So confirming who's affected is the first step, and we've had surveys. It's a bit of a sticky wicket because we are not a nonprofit and we're not a bona fide entity, so I can't really post surveys on the internet and say, send me back your information to donnajacobs@gmail.com, you know, because I could be a scammer. So I've been running into a little bit of a problem. How do I get electric surveys done so we can survey the 824 households and get a real number? And then, of course, the real desire for our little group is to coordinate with the Board of Health and the town manager and the select board so that our efforts should complement municipal action that we're all doing. You know, we're not duplicating and we're not canceling each other out. The third item is to check with Massachusetts regulatory guidance and appropriate technology. And there's a lot that we can discover about the filtration systems that really work. And we found one that really works for about $550 at its high price. So that would bring us to the estimated costs and fundraising sources. So the current market for an installation of a whole house filtration ranges from about $1,129 to $3,538 per home. For 25 homes, now the average would be about $68,000 for 25 homes. The low would be $39,475, and the high would be $99,700. I don't want to get into this detail too much because I do have a letter requesting that I be put on the agenda of a select board meeting coming up. I'll pass the letter out, John. But just to give you the idea, as we're going through this, we run into other sticky wickets like finding plumbers. I think finding plumbers is going to be one of the hardest challenges to get this project done. I've called a few plumbers and they're booked out and they're not really looking to sit on our committee as a technical advisor. You know, so we're having some difficulty. But you know, when you think of opportunities for employment, if we move into the water business at all, there will be a demand for plumbers and jobs for plumbers here in Berkshire County, which can be a bad thing. The other sticky wicket is that we're still looking for fiscal sponsorship with local nonprofit organizations that can accept tax deductible gifts through community, through our fundraising efforts. So we do know there are people in the private sector who want to get behind this. They think it's wrong that there are homes and people and children and old people drinking brown water, bathing in disgusting water and going into despair over it and who knows what kind of health conditions. So there are people in the private sector who are willing to get behind it financially and willing to make donations. In fact, I have a few donations in the pipeline. I just don't have a place to put them because I don't have, you know, a nonprofit bank account, but we're working on it, and hopefully by the end of the week that will be solved.
Donna, just kind of wrap up your way.
Yeah. So, but the last piece of is the pilot and quality control. So what we need to do is to have a test of 5 to 10 homes and to see how this works. And test water before and after installation and to document the performance for donors and for grants, that this is something that works. So there's a lot in the project, a lot to do and a lot of, little things that we figure out along the way. I'd like to share with you with a presentation at a select board meeting. And I'll pass this out as request.
Thanks, Donna.
Okay.
Jim. Go right ahead.
Good evening, Select Board. This is James Garzone, 84 North Plain Road. Just want to say welcome to the community, Ms. Hartsgrove. You'll see it's a great, vibrant town with great, wonderful people, and I hope you enjoy it as much as we do. I just want to say I'm glad that we went over the priority list. Lots of things that we are looking at, and as you will get to know me, one thing I preach or say a lot is about the unaffordability of a town. I hope when you go around town, you just talk to our business owners, our citizens, go to Teague Center, speak to our senior citizens. One of the big issues is the unaffordability. We talk about all these initiatives that we have planned, and all that takes money, but there's a big divide between what people can pay and what we can afford and what we need. So a lot of things that we're trying to do. So I just want to say welcome to the community and thank you very much.
Thanks, Jim. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Go right ahead, John. That'll be fine right there, John. It'll pick you up. Oh, even better.
Yeah. Only like an ice cream cone I was advised recently. Okay, my name is John Breasted. Last name is spelled like in double-breasted suit. It's mostly for the benefit of the town manager, new town manager. This is only the third time since January 14th of 2019 that I've spoken citizen speak times. I've spoken. And it's the same item. It is, and I hope everyone here, except the new town manager, remembers, there was an article passed by nearly an unanimous voice vote at the annual town meeting on April 1st, 2025. And it was entitled The Great Barrington Trust Policy. And a couple of citizens groups, including a recent past chairman of our finance committee, worked on that proposal. And you as a board, I don't mean the 5 of you here tonight, Steve was the only one who was here then on the board. And the board of selectmen recommended it for the town meeting to pass. So it became clear to me, and I think some other residents in January of 2019, that the 2017 trust policy required revision and clarification. And the terms of Article 25 say quite explicitly that when there are questions of interpretation about this policy, I'm paraphrasing the words. It is the select board's responsibility to discuss it in public sessions. Now, so I'm not wanting to get in the weeds of the details of this, but I said it in January of 2019, and I will say it again. I'm speaking only for myself during this meeting. But, that's an important task. And it falls under the rubric of your own rules of order, as my last check defined in Roman numeral 12B of the select board's policies and procedures. That when a citizen speaks, as I and the previous people here have spoken about a matter, it's only as a heads up to ask the select board to put on an agenda as soon as possible after the meeting at which the citizen speaks, the item that the person brings up. If it can't be done, unless it can be dealt with as a routine administrative matter. The relationship of the town of Great Barrington and its employees, including the police, to federal immigration policy and ICE abductions of town residents is not a routine administrative matter. I said that in 2019, and I was ultimately stonewalled by the town manager and by this board as it was then constituted. I plan tomorrow morning to send all 5 of you on the board and to Ms. Hartstone copies of my correspondence with the police chief at that time, with board members, and with probably some other people. So I am speaking for myself tonight, but I have started to cooperate, work with a group called Multicultural Bridge. They, under the leadership of Gwendolyn and Sent, they were one of the organizations which worked on the wording of Article 25 and proposed it to you as a board, and you recommended that it be passed by the town meeting.
Just kind of wrap it up as you
Yeah.
can, John.
So, as I said in the summer when I spoke on this issue, I don't want to get in a back and forth with you about this. In fact, getting in a back and forth with the select board is expressly prohibited by your own rules of order, which you guys who were here then violated in January 2019. We are planning in the sort of subcommittee of the Gwendolyn and Sant's organization to take this up again on this coming Thursday evening. And the tentative plan strategically at the last meeting of that group I was able to attend was that we will, members of that group will attempt to speak with each select board individually. And we haven't taken assignments on that, but that is the plan, so that you know more about what our developing concerns are. Okay,
Thank you, John.
so.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ben.
Anyone else?
Next one?
Yeah.
Select board time.
Excellent.
Bill? Huh?
Just another, welcome and thank you to Liz and, first meeting.
Thank you.
Garfield?
Well, not good. Welcome aboard. Nice speaking with you earlier today. And I'm looking forward to what you
Eric?
11 to 7 p.m. tomorrow. Please go out and vote. 11 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Too bad.
Thank
do. 2 ballots,
Give out.
equally important.
Media time.
Right down the line here. We got everybody. Missed a few here.
By unanimous consent, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.